All right. And more people may show up, but I don't want to take up too much time. And I thank you guys so much for showing up and to this, and just showing up for scholarship committees and reading scholarship applications and doing evaluations. You know, obviously I couldn't do it without you guys, but you are making such great changes to Alaska by supporting these students. So real quick, I'm Stephanie O'Brien. I'm the Senior Program Officer here at ACF. And I said earlier, this is the first time I'm seeing a lot of people's faces. So this is really a good treat for me. And I'm so happy to work with each of you individually, and then as a group, as a committee. You get constant emails from me pretty much from here on out. But like I said, call me or email me if you ever have any questions. I have been at ACF for 3.5 years. And I am given the joy to really kind of make this scholarship program the best that it can be. And so I need your help. You guys kind of hear my ideas and run with it. And then I get feedback from you if it's even worth continuing, which is kind of what today is about. I am constantly doing trainings about best practices and all sorts of stuff for scholarship programs. And so I just want to be sure that it's clear and that you guys all have an opportunity to ask questions if it is not. I've already answered some questions before this meeting with some folks over the phone. I'm not going to go around and have all of you introduce who you are and what scholarships you work on, but if you want to put that in the chat, just so everybody's kind of aware of who you are, where in Alaska you are, what scholarships you work on, that would be really great, because I know it can get really overwhelming to do everybody as more people show up. And again, this meeting is being recorded. So if you have to pop off for any reason, or if you have scholarship committee members that you know couldn't attend, I will send this out to everybody. I am going to say, Frank, it is so good to see you in person. I talked to you on the phone and I just am so glad to see your face. We're going to just kind of jump in here and hopefully everything works the way it needs to. So the mission and vision of ACF, you guys can see it there. Scholarships fits beautifully into this because we are helping students thrive, but we're also helping Alaska thrive by supporting these students who we hope come back to Alaska, but they wear, the Alaska flag, even if they move to the lower 48 or somewhere else. This really is how ACF can help complete its mission. This is all part of its work. So if you aren't quite sure how some scholarships got started, you can always ask me. These off to the side, there are over 60 scholarship funds at ACF, but I run 40 cycles every year. And that number kind of fluctuates and changes a little bit. But it's important to know that there's a lot happening. This year, I actually think there's going to be over 50 scholarships that do a cycle. And that is a lot. I am the single person that oversees scholarships, and then I have support from our VP of programs and grants. But I love it. It's not a burden. It's just really busy. So I want you guys to kind of understand that sometimes there's a time where you don't hear from me, and I know that can be confusing, but it's really, I'm just working on getting scholarships ready to rock and roll. So right now I'm updating scholarships, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means later. And then I do all the process work. So just so you know, there's a lot going on, and typically scholarships, I can get up to 1,000 scholarships in a year. And so it's a lot of work, but so busy program at ACF, which is fantastic. We can talk a little bit about what the scholarship awards for 2021 were, which is what you all had a part in. And I got to report to the board. I get the fun part to kind of celebrate. But over $460,000 was awarded this year. That was 38 scholarships. Like I said, sometimes it starts with 40 and sometimes they drop off. Sometimes students are still not applying because of COVID. We all walked through that together. There was 116 students from 43 different schools. So that is incredible, and you are all part of that. So celebrate that. You are helping ACF complete its mission, but then you're also changing Alaska and these students' lives. So that is fantastic. And then our agenda for the next, I'm going to say hour, so we'll see. We're going to look at the 2022 cycles, lengthening the scholarship timeframe. This is what that letter is that I sent you guys via email. We'll dive into that a little bit more. The process, what do I do? I think that's helpful to understand, just so you can kind of get the scope of what's going on, and then you know how I can best support you. That's why I'm here. Scholarships committees, what the IRS says, we love them. What ACF does in support of what the IRS requires us to do, and the best practice. That also includes some DEI work that we're doing. And then lastly, we'll do questions if you guys have any questions. So my computer is going really slow and I apologize. It's a PC. I'm a Mac girl, so I'm just going to blame it on that. Okay, so looking at the 2022 cycles, this is going to be a lot of information. I apologize, but I will try to go slow if I need to, but again, we'll have questions at the end.
Not at all.
So October 6th, which has already passed, but these cycles continue. October 6th through March 17th is going to be the scholarship cycle timeframe. So they do not need to be open this entire time. But keep in mind that we're moving, all scholarships will have to close by March 17th. So if you open in February, totally fine. It's going to be a shorter time frame. That's okay, because it's my job with your partnership to outreach to students. And I'm constantly doing this starting in October. Why October? That is when the FAFSA, the free application for student financial aid, opens for all students. And that's obviously federal funding, Pell Grant, all of those kinds of things, student loans. That's when the application opens. And so what I have seen is other scholarship programs across the state and even in the lower 48 have their applications start around this time frame. So students are kind of in that mindset. I do have a scholarship, the Red Voucher Scholarship, that opens in October-ish, and then is actually open until January. So they're open for a good chunk. There's a lot of flexibility within this time frame, but I think the greatest piece is that it's longer. So we don't have this January to April kind of crunch anymore. I really want to expand it because I think it'll benefit the students. And I know that you guys are all very busy people. You have lives outside of volunteering to be on the scholarship committees. So I want to respect that. February 28th through March 10th, I need scholarship committee members confirmed. I have done a lot of last minute, who's on the committee? And I will say my blood pressure really starts to get high. This is the time frame that I really lose a lot of sleep because I just want to make sure that we're not overworking our committees. So I don't want you guys to have to, single-handedly read, 50 scholarship applications. That's on a good day. And then also know that if your committee doesn't have at least 3 people, I fill in the gap. So in 2020, I was probably on half of them. 2019, I think I was on more. It's just the way the ball bounces sometimes, but if we can know who is on your committee the 28th through March 10th, fantastic. There's a conflict of interest and confidentiality form, just that one sheet of paper that is due every year. It's an annual form that is an IRS requirement. And I will get that form to you in that date, unless you want it earlier. That's fine too. You can do it whenever. But having that on file will really help me. And then we have March 17th through the 30th. This is kind of, I will say this will be the quiet zone. So if scholarships will now need to close by March 17th, the 17th through the 30th, ACF will review every application, make sure they're eligible, and then assign them to committees. So sometimes you may not hear from me, but you know that the scholarship is closed. Always reach out and just say, hey, just checking in, making sure you're still alive. That's fine. And like I said, I can get anywhere from 650 to 1,000 scholarship applications. So there's a lot of reading to do. I will say this year, I'm for every application, there's eligibility criteria. So I'm putting that first and foremost in the application and asking the student, do you meet this criteria? Yes or no? If they say no, the application will not populate, and it says, it's, basically, sorry to say, it looks like you are ineligible. If you have any questions, they can contact the ACF office, me. If they say, yes, I do meet that criteria, then the scholarship application will populate and then they can go through. It's not, foolproof, and we'll see how it works. It's the first time ACF has tried anything like this. So we'll see, but that should hopefully cut down on the amount of time it takes me to read every single application and make sure they're eligible. So it'll still be kind of quiet, but I promise as things get assigned to you, I'll be in contact. And I know some of you get printed applications sent, and we'll still work the same way that we have before during that time. It's just going to be a little earlier. So April 1st is basically the targeted date that committees will be able to look at every application that they've received and do their review and evaluation. So April 1st, kind of have that magical date in your mind that if you get it earlier, fantastic. If you don't, then it'll come on April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke. It will happen. And you'll be able to review. For those of you that do our online scholarship management system, it'll be in there. For those of you that have offline, we'll work together to make sure all of that works out. So I know I'm going really fast and I apologize, but this is really good information. It's just a lot. The month of April is your month to review, evaluate, and meet as a committee to make recommendations for scholarship awards. However, whatever your safety level is because of COVID, you can still meet virtual. You can meet via email. I have gotten PDF copies of emails before, and that's fine. Or I've been CC'd on emails just so I'm looped in as committees make decisions. You can meet in person. Just be mindful of if there's still some mask mandates or vaccinations, whatever the case may be for COVID, whatever people's comfortable level is, make sure that's respected by all members of the committee. I do not need to be invited to all of them. I love attending what I can and hearing, and then I'm there to answer questions. Not required. If you invite me, I will come if I'm not, out of town. So keep that in mind. I'm happy to be there, but I don't need to be. But what I do need is the notes, who's getting the award and for how much. May 1st is when I need to know who is getting scholarship awards. I've had feedback from schools as early as mid-April. I don't even know, but I've had schools ask who from their school was awarded a scholarship from us because they know somebody applied, and I have not been able to answer with our full list. Some I could, but so it's really, students are waiting to make decisions on what school they're going to go to. They want to be able to celebrate with their classmates. Even students who are in college, they still want to know before they head into summer. And I know life happens, and should it continue to happen in May, just keep me posted if we need to be a little bit more flexible. Last year I had several scholarships go into June, and that's just really hard for me to get in touch with students at that point. We did it, we're good, but May 1st is the deadline to get all the recommendations in for scholarship awards. That will be helpful. And then you know how to find me should something come up. Okay, I know that's a lot. Let's take a breath. And this is all in the email that I sent. If you'd like a hard copy, I'm happy to send it to you in the mail. I'm a paper girl. I have the PowerPoint printed out. That's how paper I am. So if you need a copy, just let me know and I'll mail it to you. Okay, so now we're going to quickly go through the process because this is really just so you are aware what I'm doing when you're waiting for scholarship applications. So June through August, payments are being processed and sent to schools. So this is the time frame that I'm asking students to tell me, where are you going to school? And I need the address, and then we process it and send it away in August. You can see that there. And then September to December, I am talking to families, I'm talking to schools. That this is when we'll receive checks that are sent back. Hey, the student never enrolled, or those kinds of cases, or the school never received the check. All those types of things is typically between September and December. And I'm also reaching out for the next cycle starting during this time frame. So I'm kind of living in the last one and going towards the new one. So it's a little bit of a hectic world, but it works. I reach out to all the Alaska superintendents, schools that have specific scholarships for them. I'm going to shout out to Lathrop High School in Fairbanks. They have a scholarship. And so I reach out to them specifically. So Wrangell and Sitka, I reach out to them specifically, and I try to be in their face so they know that they're coming. And then students hopefully will find out. That's always key. I think students still really learn about scholarships to their parents, but you have to tell them in 100 different ways. So then we start in the new year. So January to February, any scholarships that aren't open yet will open. And then March, scholarships close. We do our due diligence by making sure students are actually eligible, that anything that needed to be attached is attached, that you can actually see it. I know sometimes there's a couple that usually slip by me, human error, but I try to make sure that when you click on the attachment that it actually populates. And then in April, everything's assigned. People are reading and evaluating. I get questions from students of, did you make an award yet? And then committees also needing a review on how to access the applications online, how to do the evaluation, doing all those things in April. And I sit as ACF staff. I'm a representative on a couple different scholarships on purpose. And so I'm doing my own reviews and evaluations during that time as well. And then new is going to be May 1st. All recommendations are due in. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see. Let's work really hard for that. Okay, so that's my workflow. That's kind of what I'm doing. The year goes fast, I will say that. I don't want to spend too much time on what the IRS says a committee can be. It's dry, it's boring, and a lot of you already know it. So the IRS, they have this Protection Act from 2006, and it's the 1/3 rule. So donors can only make up 1/3 of the scholarship committee. Y'all are great at that. You really understand what that means. And so thank you for not making my job hard for that. You guys are really great at making sure we're following what the IRS says. So I'm just going to show you what these things are. And this information is actually on the conflict of interest and confidentiality policy. I put this, and the volunteer job description, I put this information in there just because it's good to be reminded. But donors can also be family members, and then they, of course, family members really branches out. It can get convoluted, but like I said, you guys are great. If there's ever a question when you're recruiting for a committee member, if you're doing that, don't hesitate to reach out. Every committee member is approved by ACF's board of directors. So all of y'all just got approved by our board meeting in November. Yay. So That happens every year, just so you know. There's my set of eyes making sure that they are okay to be on the committee, and then the board does theirs too. So we're all good. Like I said, each committee should be 3 to 5 individuals, and a point of contact identified. I know who to contact. You guys were great at making sure I know. Sometimes it's the whole committee just wants to be looped in at the same time. That's fine. But if you sit on a committee and you're like, oh, I actually don't hear from you that often, and you want to hear from me more, let me know. But I'm really sensitive to making sure that everyone's time is respected. And if you don't want to be the point of contact and you'd rather, make sure the other person, the scholarship point of contact gets in touch with you, that's fine. That can always be adjusted too. Hello, computer. And then the annual conflict of interest and confidentiality form, I will email it to you. I believe it's also on our website too. So if you didn't want to wait for me, you could fill that out and sign it. If you sit on multiple scholarship committees, you only need to fill out one. Just make sure the committees you're on is listed. So yeah, for me, I sit on the GCI scholarship, the Lathrop scholarship. So I can just use one form and I can just write the scholarship committees that I sit on and sign it and date it, and that's fine. If you want to get another committee member to sit on the scholarship committee with you, there is a volunteer job description that I believe is on our website as well. And this is just kind of it's a little vague, but it's a very broad description of what the time commitment will be. It is different for every scholarship, and there was no way that I could be like, on this one you'd only do 3 hours, on this one you do 10, so it's very broad. And then you can just have that conversation with whoever you're recruiting. This is what I use as well when I am recruiting people to be on committees. As a follow-up to this, like I said, this is being recorded, and then I will send you the forms that I've referenced just so you have it, and then go from there if you have any questions. Whoa. So diversity, equity, inclusion focus, that has been important to ACF this year, actually the last few years. And we've done some really deep dives and deep trainings in this. This is through a grant making lens, which scholarships are grant making. We're making a grant to the school basically on behalf of the student. So keep that in mind as I have changed applications a little bit. It might be wording is just a little different. Instead of using he/she, I'm using they for an example. That's a really broad example. But you will notice also on every scholarship, I am asking for optional demographic data from students who are applying. This helps me market and outreach the scholarship better. That's at this point, that's really kind of all we're looking at. I want to know who I'm missing in the state. So there's region, where in Alaska are you? And so that helps me know, like, wow, we're really heavy in Southeast Alaska, Southeast. And so I know to make sure that I'm getting over to Western Alaska more, if that makes sense. So anyways, just so you know, and then I am asking the pronoun question, what are your preferred pronouns? Because I have run into this a couple times of calling a student he when actually they were female. We could ask male, female, but if they go by they, I want to respect that. So anyway, so that's there as well. And instead of saying other, this is such a side note, but instead of saying other on the demographic data, I say, let me tell you. So the student is saying, let me tell you what I prefer to be called. And it can be, whatever. So that's just a little bit, very short synopsis of what we're doing with DEI. And that's just in scholarships. We're doing it with our grants as well. But if I'm making updates to your application, and I will send it to you, so you are not like, why are we asking this question? You will have it beforehand, before it goes live, so we can talk about it if you're not comfortable, or we can change things, because we're in this together. So you are a part of it, but just so you know that there will be a couple tweaks. And then social media. Who doesn't love social media? So I would love to put together a private scholarship committee volunteer group on Facebook. If you are on it, it is not required, but I think that will help just in real time having conversation. And full transparency, I'm a volunteer for Make-A-Wish Alaska and Washington, and there's a volunteer Facebook group that's private. And we ask questions of like, hey, what should we do in this situation? And it's actually a question that's helped for several people. So I think just in a platform where a question can be asked that may be valid for different scholarships, it's good. We can try it. And if people are like, I really don't use it, then we can get rid of it. That's the beauty. But I would like to open that up. I'll be working on it in the month of December, hopefully to roll it out in January. If you're on Facebook, great. I'm going to let everybody know what the link is so you can join it. 'Cause I don't think I add people. I'm not quite sure. I have to learn that. And then ACF has an Instagram page. I don't know if you guys are on Instagram, if you follow it, but they do, our communications department is fantastic at making sure students are spotlighted. So be looking for that. I don't think I'm going to do a specific scholarship Instagram page, just, I don't know. We'll see. What I am going to do is a TikTok page. I'm really nervous about this. I don't have a personal TikTok. Don't know what all of that means. But I think it'll be important because students apparently are on TikTok, and I may ask you to do a video or something in your area just as we go. I'm going to do the first few, don't worry. But I think that will be helpful just to get the word out. That's really what I want to try to do. So any of you have TikTok and can give me some pointers, let me know. But that's kind of where we're at with social media. Of course, ACF will still continue to spotlight students on every platform that we have, but this will be very specific to ACF scholarships. I will let you guys know when all of that goes live. If it does, I'm hoping TikTok will show up at the same time the private Facebook group does, just because I think that makes the most sense. Just roll everything out at the beginning of the year. That is a lot of information, you guys. So what questions or concerns do you have that we can talk about? And I'll also say, if you have any suggestions to support the scholarship program, things that have worked for you, you can share it here. You can, or we can talk offline, whatever your comfort level is. But I'm going to be quiet and give you all space if you have any questions.
Yeah, Stephanie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is Steve Heckman in Fairbanks. And I guess, I don't know, this is probably not a real major question, but the conflict of interest, and I'm sure I've filled one of these out before because I've been on this particular scholarship for a couple of years now, at least. Mm-hmm. But is that based kind of on if we see who our applicants are? Is that something that we address after we see who the applicants are, or is that based on some other criteria that you're concerned about?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So it's basically saying if I see a name that I know, once I get the list of students, I'll recuse myself from evaluating that student. Yeah, the IRS just wants to make sure that we have it on file, so it somehow shows that you acknowledge that I'm just going to recuse myself if I know somebody. And because scholarships every year we get different student names, that's why we have to do it every year.
Yeah.
I tried to make it really simple, but
no, it's not that complex, I wouldn't think. I mean, person would know if your granddaughter is applying for a scholarship, you probably shouldn't be making that decision.
Right, exactly.
Stephanie, this is Ron in Fairbanks. I was curious about students applying for a specific scholarship versus if there are multiple scholarships within a community. Could they be automatically put in the running for others that maybe haven't been filled yet?
Potentially. There's a way, our system could do that. We don't have that level of sophistication in our system right now. But we have done that in the past for a couple where it's kind of the same criteria, and we've been able to just say, hey, why don't you look at this student? I will have to look if the IRS doesn't, I would assume that if it's marketed the same, if students have had the same access to it, that it would be okay. I just want to make sure that we have our own policies in place of what that looks like. So they can't say, well, you actually just targeted these same 5 and put them in the running. But there's a way to do that. We just need to make sure it's clear on how we're doing it and why we're doing it when it happens, which we can talk about that when it gets to that situation, but there's a way to do that. Mm-hmm.
I think it's very complex for students to know what scholarships are available unless they go to the ACF website and then scroll through all of those pages.
Yes.
And it would be wonderful to have some way to sort of ease that process for them.
Absolutely.
Or if they're really dogged, you know, those are probably the students that you really want too, the ones that do research and figure it out.
Yes, I would, I would love to be able to make it easier for them. I will say that when I've seen a scholarship application come through and I can see that they're a good fit, I've told them, hey, you may be eligible for this one as well with ACF, and have given them the link. Because I have hundreds of students, it's not a good practice. It's very spotty, but I have done that before where I'm like, oh, you actually would be really great with this one too. So you might want to check that out. So we can brainstorm on how to make, because you're right, students, that's a lot of students to research what scholarships they're eligible for.
Thank you.
Stephanie, I have kind of a follow-up question. I think what Ron was talking about. The scholarship that one of the scholarships that both Ron and I sit on is Don DeWitt, and Don had kind of a peculiar set of criteria for applicants for his scholarship. As you may or may not be aware of, he was looking for not the highest GPA tier, but he was looking for something like between 2.275 and 3 or whatever. Anyway, he was looking for B students really. I'm not sure how that information, I mean, that's kind of a unique situation. I would imagine most of the applicants figure that they need to have pretty high grade point average in order to be successful in applying for these. And that particular scholarship could miss some people if they didn't know that there was a scholarship specifically designated for B students out there. I don't know if that's how they would become aware of that really. I guess they just have to do their research. I don't know.
Yeah, and I reach out to all the schools in Fairbanks, especially for that one, and really try to hone in on that. It is for B average students. It's not, cream of the crop, 1%. It's
right.
So I think we're still in this COVID lag a little bit where students are like, well, I don't know what I want to do. And,
right.
It's hard sometimes for students to even know what they want to do out of high school. I changed my major 3 times. So but with the DeWitt scholarship specifically, I mean, because it's very specific to Fairbanks, those students that apply, that one's really easy for me to say, here's some other Fairbanks specific ones. But yeah, it really takes just marking over and over and over and letting students know over and over and over that,
well, it's good to hear that I'm sure you're aware of most of your scholarships, but it's good to hear that you're aware of that specific one.
Yeah, for sure.
Steve, this is CB. We similarly have the same kind of a restriction on the scholarship we set up. And actually, it's a little lower. It's down to 3.25.
Yeah.
Or no, 2.25, right?
Right,
Maybe,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Stephanie, this is Frank.
Hi, Frank.
Uh, In Wrangell and in Ketchikan, but Wrangell in particular, we have a number of scholarships that we do. And you're involved in all of those and probably maybe other scholarships as well. They've changed the staff at the school a number of times, and you and I have talked about this.
Mhm.
And in that small school and at Sitka, what the faculty that is the either advisor or the person that handles that type of information, how active they are and or aren't, makes a big difference on whether or not people get their stuff together and get their applications done. And as you and I have talked about, when you send, do you send information directly to the schools, or do they have to come to you online?
I send stuff directly to the school. So we have a scholarship brochure that I send them so they can give something to students that's tangible.
Yeah.
And I send my business card so they can give that out. And then I always follow up with an email, because sometimes if they want something electronic. I know, Frank, you were great and were boots on the ground and went to the school, and man, we really saw applications explode. So for those of you that are in the area, and there's, high school, just if you can stop by and just say, hey, I just wanted to say we have a scholarship. I can send you brochures if you want to do that. Because sometimes that face-to-face thing is great. I'm in Anchorage, so I can go to the schools here. I go to Fairbanks and I go home to Fairbanks every so often, so I can do that sometimes. So yeah.
Well, the other part of that question relates to if you send something to the school in Wrangell, is it feasible to send me a copy of it?
Yeah, I can do that. Yep, let me write it down.
At Sitka, we seem to have a better arrangement over there. John Holst, who's the superintendent, is on the selection committee. So that one, we don't seem to have the problem with it that we do at Wrangell, which is a much smaller school.
Okay, I will do that. I got it written down. Yeah.
And if they know, if the faculty that's in charge knows that other people are being advised of the communication, that may spark their interest.
Yeah, light a fire. Let's get some kids to apply. Yeah. I know when I told them, oh man, when I told a couple of counselors just in various places across the state that there was money left on the table in 2020 because not very many students applied. They were like, oh, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have told my students. And I was like, why didn't you? So I'll keep pushing and make sure people know that. Yeah. And I know schools have a ton on their plates right now. So I'm trying to think outside the box of where else students are. So if you know anybody that I can reach out to, or if you've reached out to somebody specifically, I'm trying to, students aren't only in school. So just trying to think of, where they're going, where they could be working, all those kinds of things. I think that will be helpful too. So.
Okay.
This is Ron in Fairbanks again. Hello, Frank. It's good to see you. And I'm so glad that you have that scholarship in Pat's name. That's so wonderful. We appreciate that immensely.
I would make this comment about that scholarship. We have two in her name.
Yes.
And one of them is for graduate students in history.
Yes.
And that is the one that we're looking to change or get some additional input into the into the selection committee so that we can get the notices out to where potential applicants are, which would be University of Alaska at Fairbanks and any other university in the state that has a history program. Because that scholarship is for history. We've had difficulty. My sister watches that scholarship down in Ketchikan, but we've had difficulty getting somebody involved to make sure that the word gets out. It's a little different at a university level than it is at the high school level.
Mhm.
So we're looking for input on that, by the way, if somebody has some different ideas.
Yeah, Frank, there's a group of us meeting for a history meeting probably in the next couple of weeks. So I'll pass on the word, and they're all from the 3 campuses. So we'll see what we can do to help you.
All right, that would be good. And that scholarship is a $5,000 scholarship,
Yes.
single year, and that is for graduate students, somebody that's majoring in history. And we were going to ask Ross Cohen to give us a hand.
Yes.
And I think Ross is back at Fairbanks now. I'm not sure.
He'll be back shortly. Yes.
Yeah.
He's giving a lecture here next month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And we'll have to figure out how to communicate with each other. I don't have any contact information for you, but maybe I can just put mine into the chat and then you can ship me a message or something.
All right, Ron. But if Stephanie has it, we can Stephanie will send it to me and then we'll be in business.
I can
Okay,
do that.
great.
Yeah,
Right.
I can do that.
One other thing, Stephanie, I've been really sort of watching what's happening with all of the homeschoolers and that
Mhm.
whole huge number of people who aren't going to classes now. And I know that a lot of those parents are very aggressive. They are really super. And I don't know how we reach out to them other than them going to the ACF website. Is there an association or some group that unifies them around the state?
I don't know if there's an association that unifies them around the state. I actually gave a presentation to a homeschool last year via Zoom to parents, which was great. And I'm hoping to start reaching out to more like Idea, Raven, Denali, all those people, just reaching out to them directly. And I'm always happy to do a Zoom, because I think that really brings our state a lot closer together. And if I can't, go in person. So yes, there's been a lot of students that have gone to homeschool. And so just reaching out to the public schools doesn't reach all the students. That hasn't always been part of the game plan, but starting last year, I really tried to reach out to make sure that homeschool families knew as well what was going on. It's a great point. And we'll see. I know that there are homeschool kids that do apply. They find our information, and sometimes they have a class or two in public school. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully that population will pop up. The other one is private schools. I know I get a lot of calls from private schools across the state saying, are we eligible if we're not a public school? It's like, absolutely, they're a student. So unless it says a specific school, then there's a couple scholarships that aren't, that they wouldn't qualify for, but there's plenty for students in private schools too. So yeah, if you have any contacts for homeschool, let me know, but I'm just gonna Google and reach out, do some cold calls. That's always fun.
As all of this funding is coming for broadband, there's going to be increased numbers of people who are going to be doing that from home, and they're going to bypass the local schools. And it scares me for the funding for local districts.
Right.
But if people have a choice, they're probably going to pick and choose, and they're going to choose what's, and sometimes, an alternative way to provide education. And it's hard to reach those folks.
It can be, yeah, for sure. And I think, reaching out to, I don't know, karate just kind of popped into my head, but karate, gymnastics, softball, baseball, all those types of places where, homeschool, public school, private school students kind of combine. I think that's helpful too. So yeah, places like that, I think that's where we'll reach kind of everybody, kind of level the playing field. It's all students kind of come together. So even hockey associations, all of that, I think that's all worth reaching out to. PTAs I've reached out to and just said, can you share this with the school that you're serving, especially your parent list? All of that, all of those are perfect touch points. And it's good that you brought up broadband, because the majority of our scholarship applications are all online. And so hopefully more people will have access to the internet. I know in 2020 that was a big issue because if students weren't in school and they couldn't go to the library, they didn't have internet at home, and we really saw a decline of students applying because a lot of the applications are online. I would, not time and place for the conversation here, but I'd love to hear people's ideas of how we can have applications online. We need to use that system. It's a great system and it works, but an alternative to being, for students that don't have access to the internet, being able to still get those applications. I've had counselors in different villages across the state ask if they can get a printed out copy of the application. And I was like, I don't have one. Oh no. So, but if anybody wants to brainstorm that with me, I love to hear your ideas of how to make sure that we really are making sure that our scholarships are accessible to all the students that are eligible and not assuming everybody has the internet. I think that's important. Does anybody else have any questions or suggestions? I know it's getting late in the day and it's snowing like crazy in Anchorage. So it's gonna be a fun drive. Well, just like I said before, you can follow us on all these fantastic social media platforms. And if you are talking to parents, just happen to talk to a parent that has a student that would be eligible for a scholarship or is kind of in that graduating high school age, send them over to these social media pages too, so they can see the work that ACF is doing. Yes, the scholarship program is important and vital, but they can also see the other work that we're doing. But TikTok is coming, and that's going to be a hilarious feat. We'll see how that goes. If anybody has any ideas of how to make something that students would like, let me know. Of course, humor is kind of my go-to, so we'll try to make some funny videos of how to apply and why to apply and those types of things. So Facebook and Instagram are the biggest. We are also on LinkedIn, but I don't know how many of you find us on there, but we are there. This is my contact information. Don't hesitate to reach out. I am here to support the work that you're doing. I'm here to support the scholarship programs and the students that are awarded, the students that are applying, the families behind those students. But you know, you can give my contact information out. I won't say who gave you this. I will be happy to talk to parents, families. I will add that I should have said earlier, on applications, I am now asking students to identify a secondary contact. It says secondary contact, and it has to be an adult. I encourage students, if they're under the age of 18, to identify a parent or legal guardian. But what I have found is that students, starting as soon as they're graduating from high school, and some of them earlier, but they start working full time to save money to go to school in the fall. And I reach out to tell them they've been awarded a scholarship and I can't get a hold of them, and I don't have a secondary contact other than their high school that they went to, and they don't keep up with the students. So having the students identify who is a good secondary contact that I can reach out to and share your award with will be helpful for me. And then for the students, so they know and they don't have to wait. I had one student find out in August that they received $1,000 scholarship, and he was super grateful, and he was like, I'm so sorry that I didn't know until now. But this will help with that. So you'll see that on the applications too, a secondary contact, just so I know who to contact if I can't reach the student. Anyways, that's all I had for you guys today. I know that was a lot of information, a lot of me talking. But last chance, if anybody has any questions or huge concerns, I'm happy to talk to you now, or don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will be in scholarship application heaven and getting all of those updated, and going through any tweaks that folks have sent me. I love to make sure that it's a partnership between you and I, that it's getting the information that you want to hear from the student, while also being respectful that the student may be under the age of 18. And we need to make sure that we're not getting a little too into the weeds. But I think you guys are fantastic committee members. I can always get a hold of you. And I appreciate you guys being here tonight. I know this was kind of an awkward time. If you are interested in doing a refresher on how to access the applications and evaluations, can you guys send me an email and just let me know? Because I'm thinking we might do that in February. Just a quick Zoom, this is how you do it, and I can walk through it with you. I get asked that every year, but and I don't mind doing it one-on-one, but it might be helpful to have a group together. So anybody have any other questions or concerns or anything?
Just a thought, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I happen to be looking at the Lathrop High School website right now, and they have a lot of little drop-down menus and so forth. And I'm just going through there, and I don't see any little drop-downs that say scholarships on them. And I was wondering if that's something you couldn't provide to the schools, is, maybe you might have to tailor it. These are the scholarships that are available for students in your area or your school, and just make them available to the schools to put on their website in some easy to find place. As you know, we've had a little difficulty in getting a lot of applications for our scholarship, and it would be nice to, put it somewhere where, maybe the students are going, on a fairly regular basis to find out about when exams are coming up and other activities at the school.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I have a list of, I have it broken out internally of where, if there's specific schools or regions or things like that, that I think that would be a fairly easy request to have that people put on their school websites. Yeah, I'll work through that this year and see if we can get that to happen, because you're right. That'd be helpful for students to know that, oh, I have access to all of these. Okay. These are great ideas. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for your participation and your chats.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie, very much.
Have a great evening.
Thanks
so much. Bye.
Great program, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you.